everybody, and welcome. This is the Global MEGAFist 12, episode number 2. We are coming at you from trusty riverboat, the Paddlin'. We set course out of Branson, Missouri. We are currently in motion. And we are currently traveling around the area of Lake Taneycomo in Missouri. My name is Derek Osceola. I am joined as always by Lucille Cramblecord, and beautiful, beautiful sceneries we've been witnessing. But also great night of fights ahead of us.
Absolutely, Derek. Missouri doesn't have a lot to offer it, but the scenery's not bad, and the lawmen are pretty slow on the uptake when it comes to a riverboat full of fighters traversing its waterways. So, got to give it credit for those two items.
No doubt about that. Absolutely, we do have to give them credit for that. Also, of course, we have our we have a lot of stuff to go over right now. We have our we of course do have our middleweights making their debuts tonight, and that will get us started. But first things first, let's get to the rules as we are accustomed to. All of our fights tonight are amateur mixed martial arts fights happening on board the Paddlin' riverboat. In the gym section, we've constructed a cage suitable enough for mixed martial arts, at least on the amateur level. No professional would even set foot in here. Have to go to some sort of island for that. But all of our fights are 2.5 minutes, have 2.5 minute rounds. That's 150 seconds each, which will count down to the bottom left hand of your screen. A 10-point scoring system is in effect. Round winner getting 10, his opponent 9 or less. No to the groin, no hitting the back of the head, and of course, no coughing on the audience. With no audience here, that makes it a little bit easier to do, but you might get some stragglers who are trying to work out some stowaways, as it may have seemed that we weren't alone when we boarded this riverboat. There might have been some people who were using this as shelter to isolate in the current climate. And of course, all of our judges will score the fight based on aggression, damage control, and the best lip sync for your life performance. We've got a huge, huge slate of fights tonight. Our main event takes place in Group A. It's two fighters who had a very strong 2019. They both just missed out barely on the playoffs, which of course goes to the top 2 in each group. It's Paranorman, our host, versus Donnie Bay. Should be an interesting one, Lucille.
Absolutely. These two were very good fighters last year, and hopefully they've improved, shored up some of their deficiencies, and are coming out this year even stronger than before. Can't wait for these two to clash.
And about that, staying in the same group, we have Grover Fuppenberg, the self-proclaimed master of puppets, the puppeteer marionette, the creator of the children's show of the children's cast of characters, the Puppets, taking on a man who had a very surprising and a late charge into the playoffs last season, Chet Lama. Be a very interesting battle on this one.
Oh, absolutely. Lama was, I guess you would say, a bit of a late bloomer last season. He came on strong at the end. Hopefully he can ride that wave of momentum into this new season. Going to be interesting to see how he handles things here tonight.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I have to agree with you. I believe these two had met in a previous battle. Plus, of course, we have our defending Global MEGAFist 12 champion, Dale Branston, the winner of the 2019 tournament. He takes on one of the most talked about new faces here in GMF 12, 3Zekiel, Subset Alpha. So much to talk about this man, and yet so little known.
Absolutely. Subset Alpha is, other than the brief snippets we got out of him during his Hyperfist qualifying tournament matchups, very little is known, very little makes sense about this man, but we saw with the heavyweights last week, these guys in the Hyperfist, they're no slouches, so Branson might have his hands full with this bizarre individual he's going to be facing down tonight.
The man who claims to be from the future, Ezekiel, subset alpha. That's going to be a tough first task for him. On the other side of the group, the man who breaks our green screens on a regular basis, the Tumor of Justice. A finalist, losing to Dale Branston in the grand final last year. He's got a tough customer as well, the sad clown, Leon Pagliacci. It's a face paint battle. If it wasn't actual deformities, you might think it's face paint, but it's actually the Tumor of Justice, just radiation coursing through his body. Those are not it's not face paint, it's just facial deformities.
Yeah, it's rather unfortunate, what he's going through, but he has been a trooper all last year. He's here to fight, to win. Leon Pagliacci, I'd like to see a little more out of him this year. He did okay, but gosh, there's so many clowns last year that, and early this year that made a lot of improvements, and I hope Pagliacci can be another one of those.
No doubt about that. Tumor of Justice, again, getting a lot of his wins via submission. That was something we kind of weren't expecting, I think. And, it'll be interesting to see how he fares this season. He was one fight away from championship glory. He needs to start all again. And, of course, another fight we've got in this group, Gordon Wu, the assailant number 3, the stuntman slash movie extra from the Kung Fu movies, taking on President Jerome Glorioso, a man who had an amazing group stage, lost in the semifinals, if I recall, to the Tumor of Justice. But this should be a very interesting fight because Glorioso is very cagey, he's very tactical. And Wu, of course, throws a lot of heavy hands.
Oh, absolutely. I've got to imagine Glorioso, a man who was unwillingly elected president of, I believe it was the French Antarctic or some bizarre
something like that. It
islands.
is. I assure you, it is a real place, but it is a strange collection of islands.
Yeah, he's a person that is. He didn't want to become elected. He was kind of unknowingly elected, but now he's being forced onto this riverboat, and I gotta imagine that's gotta perk his spirits up. He can't go home currently. He is stuck here for the foreseeable future. As this
very good point. That's an outstanding point about him. This might be considered the closest thing to a vacation for him. So that would be outstanding if he could channel that energy into a win tonight against Gordon Wu. And of course, our other fight to go over in that group, Ed Picayune, the other newcomer and the winner of the Hyper Fist from the winner's bracket, takes on a tough customer in Ken Dahl, the man who has transformed himself into, well, a living embodiment of a Ken doll. Has a huge crush on the woman who had surgical enhancements to look like Barbie. That sort of unnatural thing. I can assure you that Mr. Dahl has made all the proper adjustments necessary, and this should be an interesting fight. Picayune, submission expert Ken Dahl, has a lot of reach and a lot of height, and can throw those limbs from that far distance. It'll be an interesting battle.
Yeah, this is going to be another good test for our Hyper Fist winner in Ed Picayune. Ken Dahl, a solid fighter. If I'm remembering correctly, he never really had a big chance of going on to the finals tournament, but he was never really in danger of relegation. So a solid tier fighter that could definitely give Ed Picayune a lot of trouble coming in.
No doubt about that. That is our lineup. That's our lineup for tonight. In its own order. We went over Group A and then Group B, but coming up, we are starting things off with a big one. Newcomer 3 Ezekiel, subset alpha, takes on the 2019 Global MEGAFist 12 middleweight champion, Dale Branston. That is happening right now. started. This is the tail of the tape. Height and reach is going to be something for 3 Ezekiel to come to overcome, as Dale Branson is a very large, tall middleweight. And of course, we ask them their bet in roulette. Of course, we're on a riverboat. There is a casino here. Ezekiel, good morally upstanding individual. If he knows the future, he can't bet on roulette. He'll know the bets. That's still just a very strange thing to ask somebody, especially if you didn't know going into it that he was from the future. But hey, he's a strange guy. Let's see how he can fight.
Yeah, he's struggling right now to get inside. Well, he's looking for a takedown early, but he was struggling with Branston's. Yeah, he's struggling with Branston's reach early, but one way to negate that reach is just to take it to the ground. And oh, he is slicing through the guard pretty well early.
Very nicely done. He's just got mount. He goes for an armbar immediately. His way of getting victory in the hyper fist was a lot of submission.
Exactly, I was going to say he had a penchant for snatching those limbs up. It's looking pretty tight.
Oh wow, he's got it!
Wow, he just defeated the Global MEGAFist champion.
He certainly did. What a wow! I'm kind of at a loss for words. That is a very quick. I would go ahead to say that is about a minute's time. Yeah, that he just tapped out the Global MEGAFist 12 middleweight champion. Dale Branston forced to tap out to 3 Ezekiel subset alpha. And maybe he knew that was happening. But again, you can only control your own fate, and I think he definitely did with that one. 6 big points in the bank of 3 Ezekiel. What a win. What a debut in the Global MEGAFist 12. There you have it, Lucille. 46 seconds it took him.
Wow, that is incredible. I'm flabbergasted, to be honest.
If we had a crowd, I'm sure they would be at a loss for words. They'd be stunned at this point. But that is a way to start a Global MEGAFist 12 with a big shock. And we hope you're all awake now, because we have Grover Fuppenberg and Chet Lama. That fight is coming up in just a moment. Go to the tail of the tape. Pretty close, a 2-inch reach and height advantage for Chet Lama. Uncomfortable response on roulette from Fuppenberg. Chet Lama, of course, in his true guru, living on a solitary hill in Alabama. Desireless. But he needs to have a little bit more desire if he wants to win. He got so close. He got to the Final Four, the playoffs of last year's Global MEGAFist. He needs to do a little bit more this time if he wants to get a championship.
Yeah, he is eating some of these big hooks. You know, it's a big knockdown from Fuppenberg.
And oh, Fuppenberg has come out a house of fire. He is throwing some heavy hands.
Wow, I thought that might have been stopped, but Llama did just enough to defend.
And this is his game now. He just waits, he lures him in. And the minute he sees an opportunity, he strikes. There's a triangle choke.
Yeah, I was going to comment that, you know, Llama's answer and for the tail of the tape question and his general fighting style of submission is somewhat similar to 3 Ezekiel. I wonder if they'd ever get along or train together. That might be interesting, these two.
Yeah, there'd be an interesting thing. Yeah, the path to enlightenment, I guess, that Chet Llama seems to, you know, again, I don't know what kind of enlightenment one can find in Alabama, but Chet Llama certainly has found it. He's just happy to not being asked about Alabama fight Crimson Tide sort of results in advance. I don't know. He has to remind people that he's not a soothsayer. He just reaches another plane once in a while.
Yeah, he's just unburdened by the material world and all its trappings.
Exactly, and he's also unburdened by the tide in general.
Yeah. He is digging for these subs.
He really is looking for it. He's almost got it. Almost. And, oh, just barely. Fuppenberg somehow slipped his hand out like he was just trying to...
Kind of limp-armed it, like like just dropping it out of a puppet. I
almost said a puppet. Or a puppet, exactly. I don't know exactly how you work a puppet. To be frank with you, I'm kind of scared to ask Grover that anyway.
Yeah, it seems like a question that is either going to have a disturbing answer or he's just going to go on for easily hours at a time to discuss the intricacies of puppetry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want either of those things in my brain. And well, he's actually shown, I think, a little bit more fight than he did last season. He's put Llama on the mat already. He's fought off some submissions. We're going to see a second round, I'd have to imagine. Oh, nice blocked knee. Llama able to get right away, but there's some blood coming out of the nose already. And I'd say Fuppenberg looks the better of the two. Also a cut above the eye. I didn't even see that before.
And stay aggressive.
Yeah, it was hard to... Probably some of those big early punches that, you know, just blocked our view based on where Llama was attacking from.
You gotta fight your fight. You gotta take him down.
Very interesting. Well, that'll be some quick work, of course, for the
get him down and keep him down.
For our doctors. Between these rounds, big uppercut, and that clocked him right away. And the follow-up right to the jaw, pinpoint accuracy as Fuppenberg falling over. We'll see a good view of it right now. Oh, we won't see. I was hoping we'd see a giant fist just enter the frame, but I'm afraid we don't have that. That round felt like it was a lot more Fuppenberg than it was Llama.
He sets up, you get hands in his face fast. Fast. All right.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Well, round 2 is about to
let's go, guys.
about to take place. There we have it. Fuppenberg again in the green, Llama in the dirt brown.
Lead uppercut.
Best not to ask if those were originally in brown in color or if that's just from living amongst the land.
Living his life.
Yeah, he's just trying to live.
Oh, nice takedown from Llama.
Very nicely done. Yeah, using the momentum of Fuppenberg, who is
Go that left, right down the middle.
Good reversal though, and attacking that injured eye.
Oh, lovely guillotine attempt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it didn't look like he had quite the angle on the blade of his forearm.
I recall that was kind of one of those things for Llama in the fights that I'd seen. Even when he didn't necessarily have a submission, it was always keeping his opponent on his toes. Like right here, he throws the legs up, and this has been one of his I think one of his more successful submission holds. Is that triangle?
The triangle is, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, it's tough to defend, but it's, you know, it's tough to apply if you also don't know what you're doing, which, you know, we're pretty sure both men don't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of...
It's very much amateur MMA at its finest. Anything that happens is... We like to just assume it's some sort of happenstance.
Yeah. You know, speaking of happenstance, I do want to commend these guys. You know, all last year, we might have had maybe an incidental foul, but I've never seen in the Global Megafist or the Hyperfist any kind of deliberate fouling, you know, groin strikes or headbutts or anything, which, you know, for guys desperate you kind of expect someone to just lash out. And
no doubt.
It's really impressive. Did I ever tell you about the worst case of fouling in an MMA fight I ever saw, Derek?
No, not at all. I must know this.
So it was probably 1999. This guy by the name of Chaco. That's all he was given, just the first name, I guess. Chaco. He was fighting a wrestler out of Iowa, Johnny Devlin. Chaco comes out, opening seconds, doesn't offer glove touch, grabs both arms around Johnny's head, thumbs him in both eyes, knees him straight up into the groin, headbutt. Fight is called DQ in about 10 seconds. It was ridiculous, and
I just counted 5 fouls in that little bit of time as we hit the end of the round. But please do go on as we go between the second and third round of this fight.
Well, it was incredible because that was the end of both men's mixed martial arts careers. They never fought again. Chaco actually became a city council member in Delaware, where he grew up, which takes all kinds, I guess, to have civil government work.
I guess so. And goodness, I imagine the other, the wrestler, no way he could have fought ever again.
No, he was badly blinded in both eyes. He was severely concussed. But he still goes out to yell at the middle school wrestlers in Davenport every year.
Good for him. I guess how never to let something like that change your life and your way of living. I don't know how he's yelling at them, but
you can't let an injury like that define you. You gotta live your life same as you did before it.
Absolutely. Well, that's a fascinating story of Chaco.
Little face.
And so again, just so I can picture this again, he grabs the head.
It looked like he was going for a tie clinch. I thought he was going for a tie clinch. He was going to wrap, looked like around the head, but he just came in, thumbs in both eyes, knee up the middle to the pills, couple of headbutts.
Wow, was he still maybe that was his clinch. He was just kind of using not like he kind of almost had it like a bowling ball.
Yeah, it was, the ref was, obviously shocked. It took him a second to realize, wait, all of that was illegal. Nothing he did was legally allowed anymore.
I feel like if he had a third hand, he would have fishhooked him as Lama is going. That is some good strikes. He is trying to put the end of this. He's got an armbar option, but...
Yeah, he had him dazed with those punches and got him a little distracted looking for that armbar to finish things off.
Goes back to what he knows.
Absolutely. These guys are going to be slippery, though. It's been a long couple of rounds. It's going to be tough to really finish it off. But Pfaffenberg, limp arming out of these submission attempts.
Yeah, wow, that's something really to behold in this case.
That's it. Keep locked. Come on.
Again, Pfaffenberg just using what his again. That's the beauty of this little MEGAFist 12. And being at the amateur level is that these fighters, they don't necessarily have the proper training, but they can use something. Oh, big shots!
Wow, big punches. Yeah.
But they can absolutely use what they know from their careers, from their life experiences, and somehow, in some perverse way, it kind of works.
Yeah, I don't know where Chet Lama would have grasped the idea of a Kimura. Maybe he, before he went to live as a hermit on a Alabama hilltop, he saw enough fellow residents getting restrained by police officers, and a Kimura is not too dissimilar from one of those holds.
Well, I don't know. I gotta tell you, Lucille, I've never reached enlightenment. I don't know if suddenly that gives you the ability to break people's arms in the most efficient way possible.
All right, stop.
I had never honestly considered that. I thought enlightenment might be a little more
peaceful,
pacifistic,
yeah.
different methods of life for different folks. Maybe Chet Lama's enlightenment is how to really go to town on someone.
Fair enough. Well, I guess again, to each his own for enlightenment. Dare I'm afraid to ask what Chaco's enlightenment would be in that case, but And the less said about that, the better. I'm sure a documentary of that should come out one day. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm really hoping nothing like that transpires on this riverboat.
Agreed, and we do have a decision coming. Our first decision victory. Again, a decision is only worth 3 points. There are no bonuses because there's no finish, and we're going to see what our judges can do. They do have a winner, and it's Grover Puffinberg getting a big decision victory, and starting off his 2020 Global MEGAFist 12 in a very big way, taking out a dark horse favorite in Chet Lama. That's an impressive victory.
Absolutely. Chet, he's back on the back foot as he started last year. Hopefully he doesn't take as long to get into gear, but big win for Puffinberg. He landed big damage that whole fight.
Sure did. I think the judges got that one right. Of course, our next one, we're going to take a step over to the other side of the Global MEGAFist 12 Group B action. And a newcomer, Ed Picayune, taking on Ken Dahl in just a moment. However, take a quick break from the action. For all of you who might be new to Global MEGAFist 12, whether it's this year, you're joining us for the first time this season, or you've just joined us for the first time tonight, or you just could use a refresher on how this tournament works. This is a nice little refresher for you. This is how the Global MEGAFist 12 takes place.
The Global MEGAFist 12 is a grueling competition like nothing ever seen before in mixed martial arts. First, the 12 fighters are drawn at random into 2 groups of 6 fighters each. Each fighter will face off against the other 5 in their group. A win is worth 3 points, while a draw is worth 1. In addition, bonus points are awarded for how fast a fight is won. Winning in the 3rd round is worth 4 total points, a 2nd round win is worth 5, and finishing a fight in the 1st round gets you 6 points in all. After all 5 rounds of competition, the 2 fighters who finish in last place are relegated from Global MEGAFist 12 and must earn their way back in next season. They will be replaced by 2 fighters from the HyperFist qualifying tournament. The 2 5th place fighters will be matched up against 2 more fighters from the HyperFist qualifiers, with the winners earning their spot in next season's Global MEGAFist 12. The top 2 fighters from each group advance to the semifinals, where the 1st place fighter from each group will take on the 2nd place fighter from the other. The winners of these fights will do battle for the championship. It all comes down to one thing: win, and win fast. And the title of Global MEGAFist 12 champion awaits.
Tale of the tape. Again, height the advantage for Ken Dahl. He is 5-inch reach advantage and height advantage. Ed Picayune, small, wiry, looking for the submissions, and likes to bet both black and red in the roulette. That's part of his investigative journalism. No stone unturned, no bet unclaimed. Your thoughts on this, his first venture into the Global MEGAFist 12?
Well, he's getting things going early with those big hooks. You know, Picayune won the Hyper Fist, and we saw the runner-up, Ezekiel, defeat last year's Global MEGAFist champion. So I've got high expectations for Ed Picayune
No
tonight.
doubt about that. Yeah, Ezekiel, I think, was the only fighter that Picayune was unable to finish with a submission. They actually went to a decision. If you didn't see our Hyper Fist specials, it was a two-parter that was airing right before Global MEGAFist 12. That happened, of course, last year. Plenty of time to recover, but yeah, Picayune and Ezekiel traded submissions left and right, and ultimately it went down to a decision, but he was not able to get that finish.
Yeah, he's been pretty aggressive so far early, you know, getting inside, negating all of Dahl's reach. You know, and 6'3" is not too bad for a middleweight, but at a certain point, that extra height just, you know, depletes you of muscle masses. You know, your bones just get longer, and you can't pack on the kind of power you need to really put damage on your opponent.
And of course, you know, for someone like Ken Dahl, where he is filled with so much silicon in various spots, that of course will add to that weight. So he is probably a much more frail 185. Be a little more natural at a lesser weight class.
Yeah, he might, if he didn't have all the silicon and the synthol and implants and things, he might be a you know, a very solid lightweight. Actually,
No doubt about that. I gotta tell you, those shorts, they may look like they're we called them nude because they are practically grafted onto him. I can tell any sort of, well, to be as nicely put as possible, any sort of cavity that's down there has been filled to the rim with silicon. And no, that wasn't an accidental word use. I knew exactly what I was saying there, as Picayune goes right for a triangle choke. And it looks nice and deep. That arm is just, the arm is right up against the head, which again is what really helps shut off the blood flow, if I'm correct.
Absolutely, Derek. It's really tight. There's just a question of, is there enough time to complete the submission?
Yeah, and he's able to slide out of it. I think Picayune might have just realized that didn't have enough time, but
yeah,
this is the ground game that he is looking to dominate. And that goes to a second round. Again, Ken Dahl, filled with so much silicone around the waist area. Again, those perfectly chiseled, literally sculpted abs.
I want 4s and 5s with the punches now, all right? We can't hold back now.
Shorts that have been welded and basically grafted to his body. And to get that proper shape, silicone has been kind of used to fill out the rest of it. If you've ever taken one of those Barbie dolls and seen what they look like without any sort of doll clothes on, basically one of those. It's unsettling, it's uncomfortable, it's probably hazardous to his health. But, you know, sometimes you gotta let people live their life, and it's best not to ask questions like that.
Oh, absolutely. You know, a common phrase among, you know, people who really like to work out is that abs are built at the table, meaning the dinner table, you know, a strict diet. But for Ken Dahl, his abs were built at the operating table.
No doubt about that. Yes, that's a very astute point. We start round 2, and Picayune takes it right to the ground. That's him up for a second.
Trying not to waste any time on the feet, which Dahl's best chances, I think, are standing, but Picayune is landing.
Apart, though, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, just that outward aggression of the investigative journalist, the very freelance journalist, Picayune, who is laying in waiting, almost kind of saying to Dahl, come and get me. And he's happy to respond with a bunch of really strong winging hooks.
Yeah, just big, heavy hands from Ed Picayune.
And they're not reckless either. They're not reckless. Like, they look like they're not these wild swinging hooks you expect in like a bar brawl. They're very compact.
Perfect work.
They're just vicious.
Yeah, just a lot of ill intention behind him, but good technique as well. Yeah, they're not wild. They're not the most precise punches, but there's not a lot of slop on him, is what I'll say.
No, I mean they're still hooks, so they kind of swing enough that you can see, if you see them coming, you can block a little bit more time than a straight punch can.
Nice body shot.
But it's adding an extra facet to the game of Picayune, who again, if Dahl was watching the Hyper Fist, which I'm sure he was, they were happening kind of off the air when we were having our Global MEGAFist 12 as well, then he definitely had seen Picayune and probably knew what to expect. Probably wouldn't have expected that, and he drops him right there and says, "Get back up."
And Picayune is happy to oblige, rushing in with that knee to the body.
Wow, definitely, you know, that might be aggressive to a fault. I don't think we're seeing it just yet. That's something that other fighters are going to start to look at and say, okay, I can get this guy to rush in. I can bait him a little bit, if any of them are smart enough to devise a strategy.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out if they can...
Oh, and Dahl strikes hard!
A big ground and pound. Just he's looking to get to that mounted crucifix, but Picayune is extremely good on the
this.
Heel hook attempt from Ed Picayune.
Not something we're really accustomed to seeing, but he just kind of saw a leg and said, what if I squeeze it and what if I just wrench on it?
Yeah, you torque that the wrong way and things are going to be bad, and that is bad.
He did, in fact, torque it the wrong way. I don't know if you could hear, like, the plastic start to crackle. I don't know if he's more bone or plastic these days, but Ken Dahl said enough, and he wanted to make sure those little Dahl shoes still fit on his feet, and they wouldn't if you are swollen at the ankle like that.
Yeah, that swollen eye of Picayune is not great, but he's just gonna probably slap a steak on it and finish writing make his deadline, I guess.
I guess so, but wow, that is a massive 5 points for Ed Picayune, a second round victory. And once again, we're seeing these Hyper Fist fighters looking really strong.
100%. I was not so sure how they do, but nothing but impressed so far.
No doubt about that. Well, we are going to stick with this Group B. For the next two fights, we've got this one. Two stalwarts, two familiar faces from last year's Global MEGAFist 12. Gordon Wu and President Jerome Glorioso. That is coming up in just a second. This will be their first time doing battle, as they were in separate groups last time. Their fight is coming up right now. Go to the tails of tape. President Jerome Glorioso, Gordon Wu. Again, the height and reach advantage goes to Wu. 4 inches height, 5 inches reach for the strong striker. Glorioso, again, he's a more cagey fighter. He likes the ground and pound. He likes to mix it up. He uses the clinch. He's got, he's a little bit more methodical of a fighter, but he has got a proven track record from last season.
Absolutely. He is certainly one that I was pleasantly surprised by last year with how well he did. He didn't, necessarily carry himself as some of the other, top fighters did. He just went out there did the work, racked up wins, and came so very close to winning the whole thing last year.
Well, again, a man who had to stay in hiding so much so he wasn't returned to his country where he serves as president. I think he kind of fought just exactly the kind of fights we would expect of someone like that, which is very under the radar, very unassuming. Oh, it's just barely Wu. I think maybe grazed him with a foot. But you know, again, he wasn't very much talked about, and I think no one would be happier about that than President Jerome Glorioso himself.
Yeah, that probably makes a lot of sense. You know, sometimes I think too much about the actual fighting in the cage, and not so much about you know, thinking about why the people are fighting the way they are. So
yeah, the geopolitical climate here in mixed martial arts is best left out of it. It usually never ends up good.
That's an understatement, Derek.
But you know, every once in a while we try to get, you know, give it to you straight here. But I think what we're seeing is a couple of really good straight punches from Wu, and he's backing up Glorioso. But again, that's kind of the kind of what he needs to do. He needs to just keep hammering him and keep that distance, but also strike when he can. Yeah, very nice. This is some good ground and pound by Wu. He's looking really strong. He had those flashes of brilliance last season, but not frequently enough to really make a big splash. This will be a big win for him.
Oh, absolutely. You know, anytime you defeat a guy who was so highly ranked last year, you know, it's gonna be good. It's gonna give you that boost of confidence to go out, you know, for the next couple of fights and be like, if I can beat Jerome Glorioso, none of these other guys are gonna be scaring me that much.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. You talk about momentum. Again, these aren't professional mixed martial artists. They don't know what they don't, but they also, and we talk about how they don't know what they don't know. But one of the other things is, you know, if they know anything about competition, they know momentum is a big thing, and there is a mental game to this. So even if they don't know any of the fighting aspect of it, the technicals, they know that momentum kind of puts them in a good position, and they can start to really, start to work that as we go to the end of the first round. And
You hear me?
Wu looked really strong, and Glorioso already looks a little winded.
Yeah, I don't know how much training he was able to do before we grabbed him and put him on the Axapadlin, but it didn't look like he was. It looked like he was more on the run than you know, maybe running on a treadmill, as it were.
Fair enough. That's a very different type of exercising, but Glorioso, again, that's the thing. When you think about, again, we think about these fighters having their usual, you know, having their typical, their day jobs, for lack of a better word.
Gentlemen,
yeah, it's you know, this whole situation is a big upheaval for everyone, but you know, a guy like Glorioso, you know, you have to remember last year he was pretty good at counter-striking and building that timing back up, you know, over, you know, months and months of not, you know, avoiding strikes and throwing them back at the right time is something that's kind of hard to do when you don't really have time to train that, because everyone else is you know, ordered to stay at home.
No doubt about that. Of course, that's again one of the things that we get when we have this. While we are giving this to you under proper social distance protocol, of course, Lucille and I are at separate tables in separate rooms with a glass wall fixated, watching this on closed circuit via like security cameras in a way. We are seeing, we are bringing it to you as safely as possible. But of course, we hope that you all at home are remaining safe and staying healthy. Of course, wish you all the best. We thank you for joining us here in Global Megafist 12 as we are about a minute into this second round, and Glorioso really using that clinch. And this is one of his tactics that he would use. He was a fantastic clinch fighter, if I recall from last season.
Yeah, big jumping switch kick from Wu, just as I'm about to praise Glorioso. Yeah, Wu is not sitting back. He is being aggressive against Glorioso.
Well, again, as a man who, he drops him with a right hook, and he's going in for the kill. This could be it, but he stopped again. Wu, a man who works on movie sets. Again, he's one of those just random assailants that gets beaten up by the protagonist, but he's not always one of those like sub-boss types. Like after the real like grunts get beaten up, he's kind of like the solo guy that still gets beaten up. But, you know, he can take him at least for a little bit alone. You know, the main character can't just, can't take care of him and others, but he can easily take care of him alone. So he picks up a little things here and there, I'm sure.
Nice.
Yeah, I heard him talking the other day, you know, he's really hoping that maybe next year there will be some sort of maybe, instead of the chain link fence, maybe some sort of plate glass windows he could kick people through, because he says he's gotten some pretty good practice at doing that. But
fair
that
enough.
Just seems
I don't know who would sanction that, but
I mean, I don't want to say Missouri again because that seems too easy, but Missouri.
I mean, that's why we're doing this here. To be honest with you, we head to a third round. You know, as much as I'd love to see it, I'm not entirely certain that's most advisable. I'm sure Mr. Naga may think of it as a good idea, but
yeah, we just have to get the right kind of fighters to agree to it, I think. I don't know if everyone else other than Gordon would be too keen on
I think you found the issue right there, Lucille. That might be it. We may not have it for that reason, but you know, a man can dream, and you know, maybe one day Gordon Wu can bring people to an island, and an island of plate glass windows and misfit toys and stage fights that can just be a good old time. And you know what? I'd support that as long as it wasn't competing against me.
Yeah, I would love for nothing more than to call those fights alongside, or you know, 6 feet or more alongside you, Derek. That
depends on the time. Depends on how the climate of the time at that point. But round number 3, Wu has really turned it on this last round so far.
Yeah, I think Glorioso, I mean, he's more than capable of getting a knockout pretty much any point in a fight. He's shown, you know, fight-ending power, you know, early, late, it doesn't matter, but I think he's got to get a knockout, and he is laying those fists into Wu.
Yeah, he's really coming alive in this third round. I think he kind of just gotten woken up a little bit and started realizing he's got a fight to win that he hasn't been able to really finish off just yet.
Yeah, this is something I'm sure Glorioso wasn't expecting.
Oh, another big strike! And Glorioso falls! Oh, it's not looking good! But he again clinches up from the ground, but he is in a bad way right now.
Yeah, he is really in danger of getting his first loss in this tournament, which
in the
is
group stage. Yeah, exactly.
In the group stage, yeah, which is always a bad place to be in. It's this group stage looks like it's going to be tough regardless of how things play out.
Yeah, you know, we were kind of looking at the way the groups got drawn, and you know, it's really anyone's guess in this side of it. You have someone like Llama and not Llama and Bumper, but we've got our next fight, of course, between the Tumor of Justice and Pagliacci. These two, and of course Picayune, and who he defeated. And oh, just a couple big shots. And
wow,
you know, I think the referee might have been lucky not to have seen that. Maybe some of those were to the back of the head, but nonetheless, Gordon Wu dominates that one and gets a late finish, a TKO finish. And what a win for him, 4 big points.
Yeah, that was impressive. I mean, who it came against, just the fact that he got it out, you know, for into the third round and still had the steam on his punches to put Glorioso away. That is big. I mean, we got Branson losing early. We got Glorioso losing. Some of our top guys from last year are in trouble early. It looks.
Just shows the unpredictability of the Global MEGAFist 12. There is anyone possible. It's possible for anybody to get that big win. And Gordon Wu got one of the biggest wins. And a huge third round TKO. That's 4 points that he will happily put in the bank. When it comes to being one fight in, we have 2 more fights to give you. We have one more in this group. We were talking about Picayune and Dal Wu and Glorioso. The rest of that group is made up of Leon Pagliacci and the Tumor of Justice. what a fight this is going to turn out to be.
I can't wait for these two to throw down. This is going to be a very interesting fight.
No doubt about that. That's coming up in just a moment. Before we get to it, we're going to tell you about what you will see next week, next Tuesday night, same time, this channel. Our lightweights kickoff, and this is the card. Zeke Apnea versus Cale Howard. Walter Birch, newcomer, taking on Ruben Fondant. Trevor Serrano, finalist from last season, taking on an early favorite who surprisingly went out in the semifinals, Miroslav Florislava. Meanwhile, Group B, JC Switcher versus Charlie Valentine. JC Switcher, of course, our defending Global MEGAFist champion from last year's tournament. Rob Lynn versus Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs. And Deputy Snooter Magnum, a brand new entrant, winner of the Hyperfist, taking on Big Guinness Swordhouse. Lucille, we'll have plenty of time to talk about those next week, but I am excited about those.
Yeah, I am excited, and this might be the only time it's not terrible to be in this current climate with required face masks, because if no one has stopped Miroslav Florislava from wearing asbestos shorts, it's at least good that we'll all have face masks provided.
Yeah, and of course we'll be in a different room now because of course this whole climate. But you know, if we were in the Nougaty Center, that would be a different story, nonetheless. But we've got another fight coming up, 2 more fights coming up. This next one, Pagliacci versus Tumor. It's happening right now. For this, our 5th fight of the night, Lucille, why don't you take us through the tale of the tape of these 2 fighters?
We got a pretty even matchup between Tumor and Pagliacci, an inch of height, an inch of reach. Not a big difference. You know, some might say virtually identical, but you know, roulette bets. You know, Pagliacci going for lucky number 13. Tumor, a health and safety hazard. You know, you might say, well, why is he allowed in a riverboat for fist fighting? But again, we're in Missouri, folks.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain about that either. The Tumor of Justice, is that implying that he's banned from casinos?
I mean, it could be that he feels, even if it's legal, it's a crime, and he's, you know, caused too much of a ruckus. You know, trying to apprehend people. I might have completely missed his point. I've been
very cryptic, you know, no doubt about it.
I've been accused of doing that more than one time, so I apologize to the Tumor if that's what happened.
No, fair enough.
I made an assumption.
No, I'm not saying that you were making an assumption of any sort. I was as baffled as you were. I was kind of just staring at it on our stat sheet. I was just like, I don't know what this means. And quite frankly, I'm afraid to find out, much like most of our ne'er-do-well.
Yeah, we've had quite a few people with just truly bizarre answers to what seemed like a pretty straightforward question when we put on the questionnaire, and yeah, maybe we need to rethink the best way to glean information about some of these fighters. I
think the questionnaire needs to just have something a little bit more tame next time.
Yeah, that might be for the best. It's these guys are getting real weird with it.
You know, again, in fact, you know, it's one of those things. We're on a riverboat. There's gambling here. They're kind of stuck here. At least there's some, you know, creature comforts like that. But you know, I thought it might be a fun question. But I guess they always just seem to find a way to make it weird.
Yeah, I mean, we do have some interesting characters in this you know, fighting league.
Indeed, we do.
But
Coming up on 1 minute, baby.
I don't know. I guess
Nice, nice.
something as innocuous as do you like to gamble and how do you gamble in roulette would not give some of these answers. But
you never thought it would be the case, but here we are, and we're seeing again. There's the Tumor of Justice. I think that's his first attempt at a submission, just towards the end of the first round. After Pagliacci had a lot of.
yeah, Pagliacci was looking for some Kimuras early, and Tumor of Justice seems to be trying to remind Pagliacci, hey, I'm the submission guy here.
Yeah, just kind of waiting for an opportunity to throw those legs up. And again, can't understate the fact as we go to the end of the first round, the Tumor of Justice, a man with radiation coursing through his body. That's not a comfortable thing, even if it's just mind games, and I'm not sure it's not mind and also body games that he is playing with his opponent. I'm not sure I want to be that close to someone like that.
Yeah, it's a unique proposition to have other people fight a man of the Tumor of Justice's physical makeup, but
hey, we don't call the shots. That's Most Glorious and Honorable Mr. Naga giving the okay, and if he wants a man riddled with radiation, then far be it from us to tell the man no.
yeah, if he allows it, or if he dreams it, I guess he's the guy that if he dreams it, it will be possible. It's not a question of how or if. It's just got to happen if he dreams it.
Yes, it's
Are you ready?
quite the Rocky horror, but you know, the truest thing from Mr. Naga is don't dream it, be it. And that is a thing that I think he very much takes to heart. If he can dream it, it will happen. But we're seeing the Tumor of Justice again, just the takedown. Now he's dominating on the ground from the top position, half guard, throwing some punches. And Pagliacci, you know, Pagliacci's kind of I don't want to use the term wild card, but he kind of is. I guess he does have a little bit of jokery makeup to him, but he is a bit of a wild card. We don't really know what kind of fighter he is because we've seen him handle his own in each of the different disciplines.
Absolutely, he's you know, he's surviving this armbar attempt right now. We'll see if Tumor can really break the grip, but oh, just nice escape from Pagliacci. But yeah, he's maybe not the best. Pagliacci maybe not the best in any one area, but he's decent enough to survive just about anywhere you put him. You got to be a real expert to catch him slipping somewhere.
No doubt about that. Yeah, it's going to take someone who is just really, really accustomed to one specific thing. And again, that sort of versatility, that ability to adapt to your opponent, you know, we don't really talk enough about that as a skill because you really don't know what you're expecting in your opponent, especially when they don't have, I mean, now, of course, there is tape of last year you can watch if we even make that available to these fighters. And Elka going for a submission. Again, I'm not sure I would have done that against a submission expert like the Tumor of Justice, but maybe Pagliacci saw something.
Yeah, there's got to be a hole in Tumor of Justice's game that Pagliacci has identified. You know, we may not provide video tape of previous fights, but you know, Pagliacci's been in there with several, you know, 5 other fighters before. He knows what works for him, what works against him as well. So
exactly, yeah, this is the first time they're doing battle, as they were not in the same group in 2019. Bit of a rarity. I think we're seeing a bunch of fights that are all between fighters that first time fights all through this.
Have control, take the back.
As I think I heard our social distancing alarm going off. Someone
We got 20 seconds.
may have been violating the 6-foot protocol, as we see the Tumor of Justice starting to just take control of this when he's trying to flatten him out from the back. He's got a lot of well, the round comes to an end.
Yeah, very close to finishing. I thought with punches there. If Tumor had maybe about 10, 15 more seconds, but
Pagliacci is a tough but sad clown.
Good. Okay. He's tired. His legs are tired.
That's an impressive. He's got a chin on him.
Oh, absolutely. I think just the burdens of life have weathered Pagliacci to to fists and elbows and knees, and it's going to take a lot to really put him away. But Tumor of Justice, he's definitely got the skills to do that if he can find the right position to get
they are both determined, definitely, about that. That's a very astute observation about Pagliacci, who looks fairly fresh. Again, the beauty of the clown makeup is it can also hide any sort of damage. I mean, you really can't tell when an eye is swollen unless you're actually seeing it shut. There's some dripping makeup that just looks like you can't tell if it's blood or if it's a cut. It's an interesting tactic.
Absolutely, anything to potentially confuse or distract your opponent is a great use of these somewhat lax rules regarding body paint, face paint, all sorts of things that
physical ailments.
Yeah, we're just basically allowing here on the Acts of Paddling.
Pretty much, and to be fair, we were adding that as well.
Back
we're
at
just
the
gonna add that at the nudity center. I mean, that's Missouri for you.
Yeah, it's a combination of it being Missouri and it being the will of the most honorable and glorious Mr. Naga.
Yes, I think he can throw some money around and make some people look the other way, I think, easily enough. And wow, I think the Tumor of Justice was trying to get something going. Just allowed Pagliacci to take the back, and he is throwing some heavy shots. Oh, just a couple of
the fence.
Oh, this is an uncomfortable position, not just getting punched, but just everything about that is very uncomfortable.
Absolutely, there's nowhere to move. You're trapped. Your head's grating up against that chain link fence, and then a sad clown is just pummeling you in the face. It's bad everywhere.
Yeah, the clown is not getting punched. The clown is punching you as he is taking mount again, and good reversal by the Tumor of Justice. The vigilante superheroes seem to go through the group stage very easily. Some fighters have really seemed to improve, it looks like. This is going to be this is going to make for a very interesting sophomore season of the Global MEGAFist 12 as we have these fighters who are now a little bit more familiar with their opponent.
Yeah, more familiar with their opponents, more familiar with the concept of fighting in general, and these as you said, these guys were in different group brackets last year, so
they were.
Not saying that the Tumor had easier opponents, but you just never know how things are going. Oh my God!
Oh, just like that, the clown punches back.
That was sudden and violent.
That was as violent as you could ever expect from a clown, and the Tumor of Justice is not looking good. They are tending to him. Let's see it again. Let's watch it as many times as they will show us. Whereas violent and sickening, and a couple extra shots to the unconscious body. Like this one right there, the hammer just comes down. And the thing about that is not necessarily the padded fist of the glove. That is the side. There is a lot less padding. That is knuckles and wrist and bone and other things.
Yeah, well, it looks like the Tumor is at least sitting up. He seems to be somewhat okay. We'll see. Luckily, he doesn't have to compete for another couple of weeks. So
concussions are usually done by then, right?
As far as I'm aware, as far as any trainer I've ever talked to, you get your bell rung, and after a few days, it just kind of gets unrung, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. The body has a way of kind of fixing itself in that sense. I've never in my days heard about anything about lingering effects of concussions. But right now, we've got our main event. Donnie Bay, Paranorman, our host. Opposite sides of the groups last season. They're doing battle in this, our main event. we go to our main event. Of course, Donnie Bay, the paranoid lifeguard. Of course he bets on red. Puts it all on red, just like his lifeguard colors. Paranorman, our host, again, filled with multiple spirits. Doesn't gamble. I don't want to further investigate that answer.
Are you ready?
But
Yeah,
again,
it's fine. Some people choose not to gamble. That's
Let's go, guys.
no, it's
Fight.
fine.
I guess-
It was the use of the plural first person. You know what? Fine. Because Paranorman, our host, a celebrity in a way, the host of the ghost hunting show, Ghost Insertion, where he goes and he goes to haunted places as he's being taken for a ride by Donnie Bay, and he lets the spirits that are possessing haunted places inhabit his body to get a better understanding. So the man has spirit. Yes, he does, living inside of him. But Donnie Bay, both these fighters seem like they could have. They were just a win or two away last season from really making a great season out of it, and this could be a good building point for them. And Donnie Bay goes for an armbar right away.
yeah, quick armbar. You know, both men are dry from sweat. Paranorman probably, I believe, has a thin sheen of ectoplasm on him at most times. But yeah, as you were saying, you know, both guys just a win or two away, maybe a few points from those wins away. I mean, Paranorman was, I believe, an early favorite at the start of last season, and he just kind of.
I think he lost a must-win fight to make it to the semifinals, and Chet Lama went on his tear, and that's what kind of brought it all to an end.
Absolutely. Donnie Bay looking for a Kimura
Yeah,
from.
he's going for those
from
submissions. Not much we saw from him, not that I recall, last season, but maybe he's picked up a couple things in his lifeguard training, and he's got something!
Stop. Points over.
Frank
Points
on the
over, guys.
Kimura gets the tap.
Wow, well, again, no matter what your spirit is doing, your body can only move in certain ways, and Donnie Bay gets a big win against a tough opponent. And, man, that really just kind of opens this whole tournament wide as anything in the middleweight division. I think off air we were talking about this, Lucille, that all the semifinalists from last season are 0-1.
Yeah, we've got new matchups from people in different sides of the bracket. We've got the two Hyperfist guys, with new blood, and we've got two guys who we've got the guys who got relegated, out of the picture, who they were fairly easy wins last season. So we're gonna see if things are gonna tighten up. Maybe everyone's gonna go not so much on big undefeated streaks, and maybe there's gonna be a lot more parity this season.
Very interesting to see that. There's so many variables to talk about. That is our main event. Lucille, we've got a lot to unpack today. Here's our Group A results. Donnie Bay and Threezekiel Subset Alpha with first-round victories by submission. Fuppenberg getting the decision victory over Chet Lama. But a couple of surprises all across the board. Let's see how it looks in the standings. 6-6-3, there it is. Top of the tables, Threezekiel and Bay, with Fuppenberg in third. And Threezekiel Subset Alpha has Grover Fuppenberg in that next one, so one of those two is going to make a strong charge to 2-0. Donnie Bay has a tough opponent in Chet Lama. A lot of first-time matchups, too, in that one.
This is going to be a really interesting setup because on May 19th, either Paranorman, our host, or Dale Branson is going to be 0-2, which last year would be nearly unthinkable. I mean...
Yeah, they both made a very strong charge into the to start things off.
Yeah, but I'm not going to count either one of them out because it's Branston. He's probably going to be a favorite against a lot of other people. Threezekiel, he might have just caught him with something that Branson wasn't expecting. Branson may have been too busy pickling instead of watching Hyperfist results.
Maybe so. I mean, again, we talk about the day jobs of some of these fighters. And Dale Branston, of course, the farmer's market pickler, is the pickle king of New Hampshire. But that is Group A. Let's talk about Group B for a second. The Tumor of Justice getting a loss. President Jerome Glorioso, both of them losing in the third round. Ed Picayune A second-round submission over Kendall means this. He is top of the table as well, with 5 points, 4 for the other two, Wu and Pagliacci. And Picayune has Glorioso in his next fight. Pagliacci has Dahl, Toomer has Wu. And the way those fights are made up, we could possibly see 3 2-0s and 3 0-2s. Not necessarily that's guaranteed to happen, I think, but one of the interesting things I think we'll say, Lucille, before I let you kind of speak on Group B, is that I don't know who on earth. It's crazy to think that someone is going to be relegated from this group of 6 in both groups.
Oh, absolutely. You know, someone as good as these 6, or actually as good as these 12 fighters are, you know, the fact that one of them is going to go back down and, or, you know, leave the Global MEGAFist division at the end of the season is kind of baffling to think. I mean, you know, next week we might have everyone at 1-1 in Group B, and, you know, people just trade wins and losses, and it's just a points race to the fastest finish.
No doubt about it. Yeah,
that sets things up. I mean, I think this group especially is so closely, you know, put together that I couldn't really say one guy is gonna stand head and shoulders above everyone else when the dust is settled for Group B.
I think I 100% agree with you on that one, Lucille. We think about some of the ones who just barely avoided relegation in the previous installment of this. Guys like Donnie Bay was one of the ones. I think he was 2-3 if I recall correctly. Grover Fuppenberg only has 1 win prior to today. He's equaled his number of wins last season with 1. And he was just barely, he finished in 5th place. Now, of course, this year, 5th place means you got to fight for your spot in the finale. That will happen. The 5th place fighters will fight members from the HyperFist for their spot. Of course, the 6th place, last place team fighters will immediately drop down and be replaced, but a lot to play for. That we could have a potential 4 brand new faces this by the time this comes around next year. And of course, this is what we'll see next week, 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday night, April 28th. The lightweights do battle for the first time this season. A lot of familiar faces, including 2019 champion JC Switcher, asbestos-laden Miroslav Florislava, finalist from last season, Trevor Sereno, Rob Lynn, the Goblin Rob Lynn, McGinnis Swordhouse, many more as well. That's going to be tonight. That's going to be for tomorrow, for next week, excuse me. Lucille, thank you so much for joining me from 6 safe feet away. We can maybe converse over some sort of, I guess, method safely away from one another at the dining hall or whatever, as we, of course, also stuck on this, the Atsapadlin, for the presumable future. We hope you're staying safe. We thank you all for joining us. This has been the Global MEGAFist 12. We'll see you next week as the lightweights take control. For Lucille Cramblecorn, I'm Derek Osceola. We'll see you next week.